Okay, Daniel, thank you very much for this invitation. I really appreciate you accepted our invitation and then you're ready to share your experience about your business and about what you guys are doing. So to introduce Daniel is an Eritrean experienced marketing lead and graphic designer from the United Kingdom. Currently, he is in United Kingdom and is co-founder of WeAfric. WeAfric is a new venture which is expected to be a major player in the lives of the Africans in diaspora. I think in detail, Daniel is going to explain it. Over the past years, also, he has founded a number of businesses and products, including but not limited to Mosob Limited Company, Creative One Stop, and Eritrean. So, Daniel, welcome to the event,
Thank
and
you.
I appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
All right. I think I have just briefly introduced you so that can you tell us more about you? This is a little bit small for us and for our audience. Can you give us a brief introduction about you?
Okay. Just to give you an idea, I'm a father, a husband, a designer, a businessman, and continuously looking to find solutions to problems. That's who I am. My background is I have an engineering background. I graduated in engineering product design. I also, so that's my degree, but I loved graphic design so much, so I carried on with the graphic design. So doubled up in business as well. So business and design has been my main occupation, if you like.
Great. So let me start with this question. When was the first time you think of having your own business? Because at Startup Grind, what we do is we motivate people to form their own team and come up with a business idea. But to most of the people, when you talk about business, it's like scary. When was the first time, at what age, that you come up having your own business, and how was that initiated, or who inspired you, and how did it went?
I would say
beginning, yeah.
Yeah, I would say the beginning is really my mother. My mother is an incredible businesswoman. And my father is very academic. My mother was an entrepreneur. She tried many things. She used to sell spices at one point. She was involved in money exchange before the likes of Western Union and companies like this. And she's done and started and run quite a few businesses, but the main ones, she used to also have a flour milling factory in Ethiopia before we unfortunately were abruptly removed from Ethiopia. My family were Eritreans who lived in Ethiopia, but in '98 things changed. So she came to the UK. So she instilled a lot of these business ideas from a young age. So I think we helped her out in many of her ventures at a young age. So I think she instilled all of this in us, and the idea of work that was instilled in us at an early age. So I would say my mother is my biggest influence in terms of business.
Great, you're lucky. And then how many years you're in business or in the world of work?
So I came here, I came to the UK as a 15-year-old refugee. It was just myself and my brother. Things were really difficult. So I started work when I was 15 years old, doing paper round in London. So, but then I did some odd jobs here and there, just after school. I'll finish school, I'll go to a shop, and I used to be a shop filler. And so I was, from a young age, really busy working. I would say that's one of the things that really kept me sane, work and studying. So I was busy studying, working, and sports. The three just kept me busy. So I didn't have time to do anything else. So I worked, at the age of 17, I started working in Pizza Hut. I learned quite a lot of things about the food industry. I was managing it as a supervisor for a few years. I'd say a couple of years. I did delivery for them. So I understood how the business worked. But I was also interested in the operational side of things all the time. So I got involved. I didn't stand back, if you see what I mean. And then I worked in many different shops. Orange, I worked with homeware, where they're selling different things for the house, whether it be for the kitchen or for the living room. So I worked in a printing shop. So I've done quite a few jobs, if you like, before starting our business. So in the end, I decided, we really need to start our own business. When my mother came here, it was a blessing in disguise to some extent, because she brought the family together. So a lot of work before entering business.
Okay. Excuse me, Daniel, your camera is shaking. I think you need to. It's okay. Just when you move your hands a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So I was wondering about your latest work, which is about WeAfric. And before we go to what we need from you as new learners in business, I would like to start by that, because at this age, with all the experiences, the idea that you are working now currently is on WeAfric, including the others. So can you just introduce what you guys are doing with WeAfric?
I mean, before I talk about WeAfric, I'll talk about the design business that we have with a co-founder of mine, a partner of mine who's joined us today, Henok. That was the beginning, because we learned quite a lot of things about design and business. So along the way, we used to complain about the African community, and how we came here and the struggles we had to go through, university, finding jobs and so on. So we decided, now that I'm a father and my colleague is also a father, we didn't want our children to go through some of the things that we went through. So we found ourselves complaining, oh, the African community this, for the African community that. Then we decided, look, who are we waiting for? There's no one who's going to come and rescue us. So we really need to do something about this. And the idea was, look, we need to create a platform, a social enterprise, where the community, the African diaspora community, can come together and debate, engage, and find solutions for our own problems. So the decision was made to actually do something about it, and WeAfric was born.
Great. I will talk more about this later. Let me proceed with my next question. I think we have new arrivals. While admit them, we'll continue, right?
All right.
So, yeah, in fact, you mentioned it. Let me take you back to your companies. What do you guys do with your companies in general? With your team, you have strong team, and then WeAfric is, as we have said, a new finding or a new venture that you have found recently. But previously, you have been doing in the business with your team. So what you do, guys? What is the value proposition you provide to your customers? I mean, the main services you offer, and then your experiences.
Okay, I mean, there's two businesses that we set up. One of them is Creative One Stop. It's really involved in business design and service design. And I'll explain what that is. And the second business that we set up with my family was a restaurant business that's been running for 15 years. And Creative One Stop deals with some of the things that we learned. It started off as a design consultancy where we just do branding, marketing, and things like that. But then we learned later on when we did a lot of work for the restaurant that service design and business design were important things that was required in the marketplace. So we incorporated that in the business with Creative One Stop. So while running the restaurant, because it was a family business, my sister was involved, my brother was involved. At the beginning, my mother was also involved. But because I had a chance to do some other things, we focused on Creative One Stop, where we dealt with business design. Most of our clients were the hospitality and service industry. So really looking at their service in general and implementing some we ignite effectiveness basically. So a lot of businesses lack the design element because you get overstretched. As a small business, you get overstretched, and you can bring us in and we can plan all of these things and make sense of the business itself using different tools like business model canvas, which you were talking about. What's the value proposition? That's what we used for making it easy for businesses to understand their business. So we used a lot of these tools. So that's where we come in as a consultant.
Right. So most of our audience here at Startup Grind Asmara are either new student graduates or have limited business development ideas. Now we know that that one of your businesses deal with business design consultancy. Please, can you give us, in general, to our audience, key tips on business design and business life cycle principles? What are the basic necessities for someone who has no idea or limited idea about business? How can they get started?
Okay, I'll give an example. I'll go back to my education, what I studied. I studied engineering product design. The issue with engineering product design was you had product designers on one side and you had engineers on one side. Product designers would design something and give it to the designer. Product designers would design something, give it to the engineer, and the engineer would find it difficult to really manufacture that product. So you go back to the designer, look, can you tweak it, change it? So there was this issue. So we understood there was designer and the engineer always conflicting. But you have the same thing in business and design. So the idea of business design is to marry the two together. So you have design, a lot of times what you'll find is design is a function of business. So, but if you marry the two together, you understand the idea of feasibility, desirability, and viability. So that's the idea behind business design. So you've got to make sure, first and foremost, that the idea makes sense and that it's feasible in the marketplace. And then it must look nice to the target audience that you're designing it for. So that's the desirability part. And last but not least, is it viable? Does it make money? So a lot of the times, if you look at it in those terms, then you're looking at it from a holistic point of view. So it's a really good way of looking at things when you enter business.
Right. Right. What about when one's business is launched? We have the term called business life cycle. Mm-hmm. How should we manage this? How should we deal with this area? What are the key components in the business life cycle?
I mean, one of the things I would say to people is, this is the thing I always say. There's similarity between life and business. And it's good to understand that. So in life, you're born, you grow up, you reach a maturity, and one has to die and pass away. And it's the same in business. You start off, things have to be launched, the growth level, so starting level, growth level, and then maturity, and it dies off. But in business, the one thing you can do is innovate and really take that bell curve, what's called a bell curve, and take it back again by innovation, or it will decline. So the idea is really borrowed from life cycle. So what I would say is if you understand how life works and you innovate throughout, then you understand business life cycle. That's how it is.
Okay. Next, let's talk about project management, especially in the digital technologies, where we are fortunate enough to have a number of technologies. And again, people work from different locations. How do we deal with project management when you have a business?
That's a very good question, because we get involved. I'm involved in 3 different businesses, like I said earlier. The creative one, which is my design and business consultancy, and then you've got the restaurant, and then now the new venture that we've got, WeAfric. So if I'm a believer in. I use this all the time. Proper planning prevents poor performance. Proper planning prevents poor performance. So you need to plan things properly. And one of the tools that we use right now is called Notion. And I highly recommend it to people to play around with it, to see how it works. I don't get anything from Notion, but I love Notion. And what it allows us to do is really manage all our projects in one place. And think of it as Google Docs, collaboration, and tasks in one place. And this is the perfect. If it wasn't, I'll give you, and if you ask all the team, we couldn't have been where we are today if it wasn't for Notion with what we're doing. So project management is key to what we do.
All right. Okay. All right, let's talk about, you deal with 2 things. One is business design or business consultancy, and graphic design. When you have some business, or when you want to launch a business, most of the time you have one core skill that leads you to create that business. And then which is your key skill? Do you still work on both areas equally, or you have specialization in one area that is, you think that this is my core value, and then you serve this, the business you run better on that. So how do you manage both this design, business design, and graphic design?
I mean, it's all design, to be honest with you. Graphic design being visual communication, but all of these things, in terms of design being, design is science and art. So the science part being problem solving. So I've always been a problem solver. A good example is when I went to Eritrea for the first time after a long time, just to give you an example about the problem solving part. I saw a problem, which is the travel guides were A5 size, and it was difficult to carry them with you. So I decided, look, we really need to create a travel guide that somebody can carry with them. And we created an Eritrean, and people get a chance to visit the website. Eritrean was basically a small pocket-sized travel guide to Eritrea. And that gives you an idea. I'm always trying to solve problems. So I'm a problem solver. And design is the tool that allows you to do that. So that's really been my core, if you like. But then later on, when we entered the restaurant business, I understood many things, because it's really manufacturing, food manufacturing. And there's a lot of things involved in running a business. And one of the things that I learned is there were different functional areas of business, and the appreciation you need to have to all the different functional areas of business, like branding, marketing, HR, human resources, that is, customer services, production. So making sure all these different functional areas work in harmony, and at the heart of it all being finance. So really making sure all of these things work together. But design, now this is where service design comes in. Service design makes sure, looks at all of these things. So that's where, at a later stage, I understood about service design. So I started off as a graphic designer, but moved on to doing some other aspects of design, business design, and then moved on to where we are now, service design, which looks at the service, which is service-centric, if you like.
So in general, who are your customers or clients? You have big customers or small businesses. What is your target? One of the key components of a business design is identifying your customers. So do you have a niche, particular type of customers, or who do you serve for?
Well, I mean, we focused on hospitality. That's the background. We decided, okay, we understand hospitality very well because of the family business, and we understood all the requirements that a hospitality industry needs. So we focused on hospitality and service, like accounting firms or teaching firms and things like that. So service and hospitality are the main ones that we serve.
Okay, after a few minutes, we will proceed to Q&A from our audiences. But before that, I have some questions to wrap up. So as you have been mentioning, you have a number of businesses, not alone having 2, 3, 4 businesses. Having one business could be complicated and difficult to manage it. So with all these businesses, you're also a father and have kids. How do you manage that? How do you manage yourself? And then how do we manage your team in the business?
Notion. The simple answer.
Yeah.
I mean, I can share with you if you want. I can share. I don't know if we can share, but I can show you my Notion page, and you can see what I mean by that.
Can we just share from here? Can you do it right now or just?
Yeah, I can do it right now, so you get to see how I do it. Because it might be a good idea for the audience to see.
Sure. I have allowed it to share so that you can share how you do manage things, because we have also some business founders here with us.
It might sound like I'm pitching Notion, but I'm not, believe me.
Directly after the event, what I'm planning today is to check it out.
Okay, no. Okay.
This way or the other way, you have solved them.
Okay, can you see? Can you see my screen?
Sure.
Okay, if you see here, that's my personal one, and this is my creative design business, and this is the restaurant. I'll start off with the restaurant, so you get an idea on how we control the different functional areas of business that I was talking about earlier. So that gives you an idea. So this is the restaurant. So you've got management, admin, purchasing, production, design, marketing, finance, bookkeeping, accounting, human resources, assets and maintenance, and research and development, R&D. So just to give you an idea, and everything is here. For example, the company details. If I click on it, it opens up, and I've got the document right there. I don't need to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
So digital transformation is taking place, if you like. So there's no paperwork. You can get rid of a lot of the paperwork that you hold in the office. So if I go back, just to give you an idea of the menu, if you want to have a look at the restaurant menu. Okay. Oh, sorry. Not there. Sorry, just give me 1 minute. All right. Okay, let me share other parts of the restaurant. The menu is not showing. Safety is another one. So we manage safety, fire, health, alarm systems, and things like that. All the details here. You don't need. So we collaborate with the team, and you can see the collaboration that takes place here at the top. Who collaborates? And we've got all the information that we need here, all the licenses for the restaurants, as you can see. So we manage all the different things here. Now, if we look at Creative One Stop, which I manage with my colleagues, this is Creative One Stop. Gives you an idea on how we manage things. All meetings, we record all the meetings. Gives you an idea on how we handle the meetings. You can open up the meetings.
Okay, great. I think it's enough.
And personal.
Let's talk about
personal. This is my personal one.
Yeah, yeah.
So it gives you an idea on how much. For example, our meeting today was 15th. I record it here. Okay. So things like that. So I'll take this off. So everything is managed within Notion.
Great, yeah? Great.
Okay. Like I was saying to you earlier, project management is key to what we do.
Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing this important tool. So let's come back to this is one of the tools which helps us to work effectively. But beyond that, we need personal management as well. We're going further a little bit step from the normal life. Or for example, someone may have family, but beyond that, when you add a business, it's like another burden. Then how do you settle your mind, or how do you manage that? Because for some people, it could be difficult. So let's talk about the self-management part as well. I don't know if you understand my question.
No, I do. One of the things, this is my view. Please don't misunderstand. My view is partnership.
Yes, sure.
My wife is my partner. So I looked at it. I look at it like that. It's about partnership. And think of it this way: when I started my graphic design business, I was a sole trader. I was on my own, so that's sole trader. I was a single person. For me, life and business are pretty much the same. So you got the sole trader and you got the single person. And then when you find the right partner who's got the same values, missions in life, and vision, then it makes it easier. So my wife is, really an amazing woman. She's my partner who understands my vision in life, my mission, and she's got similar ideas. And our children, you think of it as a limited company, is having employees. So that's how I look at it. I look at life in that way. So my wife understands me and I understand her. We work very, very well together. She's an amazing woman. So she helps me out in many of these things. And the children, if you've got a good partner, I think it's not difficult to deal with the children.
Great. Yeah, just have one more question. Right. So, what are the key business challenges when you are there already and the business running? Things that you may have expected or unexpected, or are the key business challenges?
I mean, COVID, without saying COVID, this is what I call a curveball. So COVID is very challenging right now. But like I said earlier, proper planning prevents poor performance. If you plan things ahead of time and you have things in place, I think you can weather the storm for sure. But some of the challenges were at the beginning when we first started the restaurant. Yes, I was a graphic designer, but I didn't know a lot about business, really, business terminology, business in itself. So I had to pick up a book and learn business terminology, things like cash flow, marketing in its general sense, because I didn't really study marketing, but I had to study it and really be proficient in it. So understanding the functional areas of business and how they work together was a big challenge at the beginning because we were thrown in the deep end. So I would say really learning all of that at speed was a big challenge.
All right. Thank you. Now we have a business for some of us, maybe those who have no business, hope they're persuaded to have their own business, and then we need to expand. We need to grow our businesses. And what do we need to do here in business expansion, brand expansion? I think it's also your profession. You're good at that. Can you say something about it?
I think for me, branding is everything. Think of it as personal branding as well. It's good to understand personal branding, how you position yourself in the marketplace, how you behave in the marketplace, your personality, basically. These are all ideas used in personal branding. But you also take that to your brand as a business. So it's understanding the coloring. I find in the African community, we don't give enough attention to design, even though we are good at art, but not design. I find this is my personal view, but we're very good at art, but design in terms of finding solutions, and combining the two with business is a problem. But yeah, that's what I would say.
All right, great. And then in this question, to add a little bit, what technologies and resources do we have to make our presence more visible within the digital technology? What technology can we use to promote our brand?
I mean, the main one I would say is start off with personal branding. LinkedIn is a perfect place to start, and making sure that it depends who your target audience are. If it's build your personal profile. One of the things I'd say is if you look at my LinkedIn profile, I work extensively on that. That's what I would focus on LinkedIn for the professional world. But if it's making sure that your footprint online is really carefully thought out.
Okay, great. Okay. So thank you very much. I have finished questions from my side. I will give the chance to the audience. If you have any question, please, you're welcome to ask Mr. Daniel. You can raise your hand one by one, and then I will pick one by one to give the session to you. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Please continue.
So shall I? So the client, just for the benefit of the audience, this is a statement. This is just a bit of a question for Danny to, just to maybe give a bit more explanation. You mentioned about planning, and is it in regards to business planning, and what aspect of business planning do people need to focus on when they're starting up? Because this is about more of a starting up as well, I think. Yeah, for the benefit of people who will be starting up. So what do they need to focus on when they are starting up in terms of business planning? What areas do they need to focus? If you can give us a bit of, or some of the people here, I think they're starting up as well. Yeah. So do you want to?
Yes, I mean,
highlight?
What I'd say is what I was saying earlier, and I go back to business design and the things that you need to think about: feasibility, desirability, and viability. And I go back. You can do a feasibility study on yourself when you're starting out. So an example would be, okay, what skills do you have? One of the things that I was talking about earlier when we started the restaurant was I was lacking in terms of the business side of things. So I could have worked on a lot of the business side of things. So you can do what's called a feasibility study on yourself, and to figure out where you are in life. If you're just getting married, for example, or if your wife is just about to have a child, you might want to rethink if that's the right time to start a business. So you might want to consider where you are in life, and run a feasibility study on yourself before you start business. So that's a good starting point. That's a good question.
Okay. Do you have another question, please, guys?
Hi, Daniel. This is Alok here. Actually, I really like this whole thought process behind planning before execution. And I see that in the beginning of the journey, right, when you're not very certain, okay, what direction to go, and everything looks like a variable. How do you plan? How do you decide that, okay, these are the things which are going to be so important? And means you have never done this before. How do you plan it on a calendar? That, okay, these are the tasks I'm going to do on this day, and in these many months I'm going to finish these tasks.
First and foremost, what I'd say is, I don't know if any one of you has heard of the golden circle. Understand the why. Why are you doing it? That's what I'll start off with. And then you work on the how. And finally, the what. And the reason for that is, if there is a purpose to why you're doing it, then that's the starting point. That's the starting point. And everything is governed from then on. So you try and find, I mean, I'll use an engineering step-by-step work mode, which is identify the problem or the need, and then investigate. You make sure you investigate whether there's a market for that thing, or which is feasibility side of things. Is there a market for this product that I'm creating or service that I'm providing? So identification and investigation allows you to define the project properly before you extend yourself into other things. So that's, I would say, those are the starting points. And then you move on to ideation and creation and deployment and testing. So, and you iterate after that. It's basically what's called the design thinking methodology. So I'll look into the design thinking methodology along with service design. I hope that answers your question, Alok.
Yeah, partly yes. I'm mostly struggling with so I see the way established organization plans things. They have plans for 6 months in advance, and we are a very young company. It kind of becomes very difficult to plan ahead, right? So when COVID came, we were not prepared at all. We didn't have money for 3-4 months of market closure. We didn't have money to pay people without doing anything and without any revenue, right? And I felt later on that this could all have been avoided if I knew how to plan at least 3 months before the things are going to. So of course I can't plan for COVID, but similar things. Yeah.
No one planned for COVID. I mean, one of the things, the viability aspects of things. This is what was missing with a lot of companies or a lot of businesses. I think, I don't know if you've done the business model canvas. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Okay, so I mean, with the business model canvas, I would go deeper into it and just plan the whole thing. I'll give you an example with the WeAfric project.
Yeah.
We are in a similar position. We didn't expect COVID. So one of the things that we wanted to implement was the event side of things, but that's out of the window. So we had, I would say you should always work in terms of worst case scenario, what could happen. I mean, COVID is unavoidable. No one expected that. But in terms of funding, that's just made things a little difficult. But the only thing I'd say is you just have to crack on and just make sure. Yeah, of course, some layoffs have to be done. I mean, the restaurant is closed right now. I mean, it was impossible to plan for this. So it's a difficult one to answer in terms of, but I would say finding funding to keep you afloat would be the best way forward, I would say.
Yeah, thanks. I think I answered the questions now.
Thank you.
And I have a question similar to what Alok has been asking. It's in a situation when you find things that you didn't expect. I think you need to play some flexibility. What observations or what recommendation do you have in this aspect? I don't know.
First thing, cut costs.
Alone, small businesses, big businesses are being shut down, and employees are left alone in this situation. But there is something that you can do. Maybe, for example, what I'm thinking is I have a small business as well, and has been more than 6 months closed, and we have to pay the bills for house rent and employees still, some of them at least. But how can we make this a little bit like how can you be resilient in this situation? Then going, for example, online. If your service were offline, then you can go for online. What flexibility would you recommend here?
I mean, one of the things, this is not the first time. In 2008, there was an economic crash. So one of the things that you should think about is pivoting. You should pivot. You know, think about ways to pivot in situations like this. And I'll give you an example. With the restaurant, one of the ways that we had to pivot was we had to look at delivery. We had to look at cutting wastage, ways of cutting wastage, so cutting on costs and things like that. So you need to look internally because unfortunately you can't do anything externally. And marketing is another one. You need to, I understand it's money going out, but to some extent you want to keep being relevant in the marketplace. If you really strongly believe, once the things start to settle down, if you really believe your project can go ahead and be a player in the marketplace, then I would say a little bit of marketing, especially with social media, to keep yourself and your brand afloat. I would say keep doing that for sure. Pivot and a little bit of marketing and waste control.
Yeah, at least you can keep the brand. Yeah, in these situations, you can keep running the name.
Yes.
For some extent. Okay, please, before we proceed to give you another chance for question and answer, I will share you one form. Those who participate today, please fill out this form. We need to update you with some other events. So I will drop this in the chat box. All right. You can submit the form. That's just to keep details of who participates in our event, because we have also special offers that we give every month. You could be part of this. So we have in this month's special offer from Startup Grind to support or to consult and give advices and resources to startups for 1 year, so that you can apply. And then to keep your details, please go to the chat box and then fill that form with Google Forms. All right. So another question from audiences, please. You're welcome. Before we close, we have just 5 minutes because we start late. We could continue 5 minutes. Any question?
Okay, I can ask one
or just okay.
Okay, so one thing which from your talk I understood. My voice is clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So from your talk as well as from my experience, I learned that there is a lot to learn on the way of creating a business, and sometimes or most of the times it looks overwhelming. The amount of things you need to get to learn, new things, you have no clue at all, right? How do you manage to learn them in a way that they don't scare you and you can still kind of keep going with them?
Focus. My simple answer would be focus. Focus on one thing, finish that and move along. So do it in stages. One of the things I would say is understand the functional areas of business. That's the first thing. And understand how each part of the each section of the business and how it all interacts. I think understanding that is very important. Terminologies like gross gross profit, gross margin, and things like this are also equally important. But do it in stages. I'd say focus on finance one time, and then branding another time. You don't really need to have an in-depth understanding of it. I would say just an overview of how that supports business, but understanding how each functional areas of business works is a good starting point. Then at a later stage, as you work with it, you'll understand the intersection properly. So that's how I would say. Focus in one area and then move on to other things.
Cool, thanks.
All right, so we'll accept one or two questions.
I have a question. Maybe if nobody's asking.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
All right, cool. So I came late and I'm just like, I missed this whole talk, I guess. So my question is like, how do you track your progress while you are doing business? Let's say you said in iterations, but like, how do you keep the business growing while still measuring the stages, like in sequence? Like, how do you measure your progress, whether by your income? Is it like by your income or like by your, I just wanted to see how you manage that.
I mean, you have to set goals. That's one of the things I'd say. Goals on finance, on how much you should, in terms of revenue, return on investment. So let's say you put an investment in, you need to look at the return on investment in terms of the financial side of things. But it's not just finance, but it's also, you need to set up a marketing strategy and then set goals based on those goals, how insights, analytics. You need to measure your website. You need to measure everything. I think measuring how well you're doing is critical. So in terms of the website, we've got Google Analytics, social media. I mean, all the different social media. For example, we use Hootsuite for the social media aspect. It's actually a software that we use for publishing all different posts that we do. And it's got analytics there that measures and shows you how many followers and so on that you have. In terms of the financial side of things, I think you need to have a good understanding of finance, how much you need to make on a month-to-month basis. So that's what I would say. You know, measuring is critical, but not just the financial side of things. You should also measure all the different aspects of or functional areas of the business.
All right, cool. Thanks.
Okay. Any question?
Yeah, I would like to ask a question, please.
All right, great. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, hi. Danny, so given that all the experience that you've acquired, if you were to give one advice to the Danny that started business early stages, what advice would you give yourself?
Well, that's a good question. I should have planned things better. I could have planned things a lot better, I think. That's why I talk about planning a lot.
In terms of the business plan or just generally?
Personal and business.
Okay.
Definitely, personal and business. Because they are intertwined. Definitely, planning. Planning is everything, I believe. That's why I never forget this saying, proper planning prevents poor performance.
Yeah,
So,
that's it.
I think it's a motto that people should remember all the time.
Yeah. Thanks.
Pleasure.
Okay.
One thing, maybe. Any books you recommend?
Wow, that's a very good question. Yes, Rich Dad Poor Dad, for changing your mindset before you enter business, for sure. Rich Dad Poor Dad. And then Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Those two books. I probably read Think and Grow Rich maybe, I don't know, every year, twice every year, something like that, just to remind myself on many issues. So Richard, and put that, because you need to have a mindset shift. If you've been working, you need to have a mindset shift to be in business. So Richard put that allows you to do that, and really, it's a very good book.
Cool. What about from the business side, like from the project management point of view?
Project management, I don't know if you were involved when I mentioned Notion. It's an application called Notion.
Yeah.
You might want to look into Notion.
Right.
It's a very good book. A very good app for managing projects, your personal life too. So definitely Notion. Look at Notion as an app.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, we have one more question in the chat box from Goitom. Can you suggest which kind of business is growing faster this time? If we focus, we can where we can win to greatest extent.
Online learning and delivery business, food delivery. Those two.
Great. Okay. Can you brief on what is online learning? How the business flows?
If you notice, Skillshare, yes, you have YouTube and and Vimeo for where people upload free teaching material, but learning material rather. But Skillshare, there's so many different platforms for learning, and a fraction of the price. And I'm actually currently doing a service design course with IDF, Interaction Design Foundation, which gives you a certification. If anybody wants to start off in marketing, Google Marketing is free, and you can get certified, and it gives you a good foundation on marketing. That's an excellent starting point. So there's so many free teaching material, but there's also a lot of, like Skillshare. Skillshare has a lot of free and paid teaching learning material.
Great. Another question in the chat box, if you can say it, what mentality you need to build for business from Afworki?
That's a very good question. This is something I learned from my mother. You need to have desire, but with desire, you also need drive. Yeah, you know, you're gonna get knocked over. Desire plus drive. That's what you need. And I'll give you an example, and it's something I learned from my mother. When we started the restaurant, just to give you an idea, my mother was in the restaurant at 7 in the morning and left the restaurant at 12 at night. That's drive. You need drive. And as a young man, seeing my mother do that, I thought, I need to keep up with this. So I'm pretty much like that now. I have a lot of drive and desire to learn. This self-starter attitude. You need to have a self-starter attitude. I don't think you can be in business if you don't have that. That's my belief. You need to have a self-starter attitude. You know, curiosity, for sure. Curiosity, drive, desire. These are important elements of business. Yeah. I hope that answers the question.
Let me add a little bit question to that. Some experts recommend that service-based mindset is also another key thing in business success. So how do you extend this? How do you explain this thing?
Again, I'm lucky enough. My brother is very service-oriented. He's a very good public relations person. And that's what made the restaurants successful, I think. We've been in the restaurant industry or business for 15 years because I was the designer, I was the back-end guy, if you like. My brother was the front-end guy who did all the public relations. He was very good at that. So I'll give you an example. Simple marketing ploy. we had the business card, and people were throwing it away. And my brother saw that and I said, okay, what can we do to save money so people don't throw it away? So he started writing names of the customers in Tigrinya, which is the Eritrean language, the Eritrean writing system. So you don't throw it away. So if you come to the restaurant and your name is Jack, we'll write your name in the Eritrean alphabet. And you want to keep that because that's personalized.
Yeah.
So little tricks like this, the family were really involved in, and I give credit to my brother. He's the people's person. So the service aspect is incredibly important. Yes. Besides, and the back end too. The back end too. There's a lot of service involved in the back end, service design.
Okay, we have one more question. What tips can you give us to improve small business sales? Have you understood the question?
Yes, yes. I thought you were going to carry on. I mean, one of the things that I was discussing this particular point with my partner in terms of sales. One of the videos I recommend on this is, can you sell a pen? I don't know if people have seen that video. It's from a movie by Leonardo DiCaprio, and he says, "Can you sell a pen?" I mean, there's four steps you need to follow. But the simplest thing I'll say to people is, look, it's about touching the emotion. It's making sure that people are emotionally attached to that thing, whatever you're selling or the service you're providing. And one of the things I would say is, in the restaurant, we don't just sell food. We get to know the customers by name. So when we write their name, I'll give you an example. When we write their name, it's Jack, right? So I'll remember that's Jack. So we make sure Jack is coming. When Jack comes back next time, say, "Hey, Jack." So it's making sure you touching the emotional side of things. So it's easier. They feel like they're at home. So they're more willing to part with their money. So we need to understand the emotional aspects of things. Basically, what I'm saying is, how is the customer going to benefit? We need to remember that before selling them the feature of whatever you're selling. So that's the point I'll make.
Okay.
Emotion. Touch the emotion.
We have time. Can we continue? Sorry,
Yeah.
we'll have one more question.
Yeah.
And how will you improve relationships, associations, and events to expand your goods reach for sale? I think, can you brief this? Can you talk, Gade? Is it okay, or maybe?
Sorry, I don't understand the question. Can you repeat?
Yeah. I also didn't understand the question. What do you want to say? If you can talk, I can unlock you. All right, go ahead, please.
Okay, can you hear me, Tequila, no?
Yes. I can hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
How will you improve your relationship, relationship and expanding your associations to expand, to sell your goods is one of the most critical element for upgrading or growing your business sale. Therefore, how will you improve your relationship as well as your ties so that your goods can expand, so that your goods can reach for people to sell?
I think what he meant is, how can you improve your network? If you're going to sell something, you need to have a well-established network, or at least you should have to develop a network. So how can we improve our network? I think that's the question.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sure.
I mean, one of the things that we're doing currently with the project that we're working on, WeAfric, you can network online, you can network offline. So you must go to events. I would say get out of your comfort zone. And what I'm doing right now is to build network, just to give an idea, and get involved in, Zoom chat, as many as you can get into. So you build a network. So what I do after this is I'll try and find the person on LinkedIn and try and connect with them. So you network that way. So once you've seen them online, you can mention them. You can mention that I saw you on Zoom and I enjoyed your chat so much. I wanted to connect. So that's the first thing I do. So I'll build my network in that way. Or I'll go on Facebook or whatever the other networks are, whichever network your audience might be. And I'll just reach out. I'll give you an example. Recently, I was on, I managed to get an interview with the African Diaspora News channel on YouTube. They have a 1.2 million subscribers. I just reached out to them, and they don't reply sometimes, but when they do, you have to be persistent. Persistence is another trait a business person needs to have. Knock on the door. Don't be shy to knock on the door. What have you got to lose? When they open, they might say yes, or they might say no. But what have you got to lose? You know, just knock on the door. So just keep trying. Email, just send your messages to network and just say who you are and see what happens. I hope that answers your question. Don't be shy.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things I would say is you don't have, look, this life is short. What have you got to lose? Try.
Okay, noted. Thank you very much, Daniel.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I think we have to wrap up our event. But before that, if you have anything to say, Daniel, to the participants, and then we're going to share this resource later in our social platforms. And then, of course, you will reach many audience there. And then if you have any last message.
Check out our website, WeAfric.com. It's an important, yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Napoleon. It's something that we're working on right now to bring the African diaspora into one place. And what we're doing right now is part of what we're trying to do with the platform. So we're working heavily on this right now to try and bring the African community into one place and share ideas, find solutions for our problems, and grow the community. So if you can, please sign up. We've got a YouTube channel. We've got a Facebook account as well. Follow us on Facebook. So yeah, and share with your friends. And anyone that wants to reach out and connect, I'm on LinkedIn as well, and I'm more than willing to share my experience.
Great. So we will keep in touch next time as well. We'll network. We have a strong platform with Startup Grind as well, so that we will have to exchange experiences, and then you can build your outreach. And as well, you can also share your experiences in our platform. So thank you very much. And then if you need, I can give another time for informal chat. Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for coming to our event. I really appreciate you. Please fill the form that I have provided in the chat. I will drop it again. And then we need to have your details to provide you for further information and special offers that we have every month from Startup Grind. Right? So thank you very much. We'll close the session, but after I close this session, if you want to talk, I can give you some minutes to talk each other.